when you're 25,000 and you're in a thunderstorm, it goes up to 40 or 50,000, and it's throwing hail at you, and rain is coming in through the cockpit, water is leaking on you. So that's when things got a little bit dicey.
The conditions were horrific. My father is modest, but the conditions, the flying conditions were just horrific. And if they went down in the Himalaya, it was a total wipeout. No one was going to walk out of that kind of wreck. So it took great courage.
Well, it was exciting, to say the least. I entered the service in January of 1943. Was deployed into China-Burma-India theater during World War II. The C-46 was aircraft that I flew overseas to India and China, and flew that during the Hump experience.
China was occupied by Japan. They had the entire coast of China in a noose. China had no ports. The last port that the Nationalist Chinese had was in Burma. And in 1942, Burma fell to the Japanese. At that point, the only supplies that could reach the Nationalist Chinese was over the hump. They flew out of India, they crossed the Himalaya, and then came down to assorted bases in China that the Nationalists held. We had to keep Nationalist Chinese alive because they were tying down a lot of Japanese troops in China who would have been out in the Pacific.
I was not mature enough and experienced enough to appreciate some of the things that I saw and was able to do. And I can tell you the people who maintained these aircraft deserve a great deal of credit. They worked in terrible conditions, hot, sun. I did not anticipate any ground fire at any point because where we were going into China, the Japanese had not really advanced into the Kunming or Chanyi or Luliang areas. If we were attacked by a plane, then there wasn't any defensive aspect to it. We had a 45 automatic, that was it. If you were looking for a defense, the weather was the best friend that we had at that time. The thunderstorms, the cumulonimbus, you'd get in one of those and it would push you up 5,000 or 6,000 feet, or you hope it wouldn't push you down 5,000 or 6,000 feet, but certainly you could drop out. And we were carrying 50, 55-gallon drums of high-octane gasoline, generally. So you got fumes all through the cockpit. The weather would knock you around pretty heavily. You'd take off from India and not see the ground again until you landed in China.
The airfields that the hump route took in were very primitive. They were just scrabbled together. I think people tried to keep them level. Sometimes you'd have a little metal mesh to even it out, but they were dirt, they were sandy, they sucked dirt up into the engines.
It was a primitive situation, it was primitive runways, and these would take a terrible toll on the aircraft, naturally.
It took great pilot work to bring a heavy plane down on a short runway the way they did.
No, it was a job to do, and I'm not trying to say that it was hard, impossible, or heroic or anything. It was an assignment, and we tried to do it.
Being able to write his story was one of the greatest privileges that I've ever had. And I had to pry it out of him. He never spoke of it, like so many in that greatest generation. Through my father, I've wanted to give the hump a human face. That was my aim, because people relate to that and they will have a greater appreciation for what all the hump pilots did.